Hello everyone and welcome back to Wildcard Wednesday, August 19th, 2009. I can't believe my son gets married on Saturday already, and one of my neighbors was kind enough to really help me out with the rehearsal dinner party that we're hosting on Thursday, so I thought I'd make her a quick thank you card. So today we're going to be using the one-of-a-kind stamp set from Stampin' Up. One really cool thing about this stamp set is it coordinates with two of the punches. The 3-flower punch here, as you can see, goes well with this stamp, and the scallop punch goes well with that flower stamp. So it's got some sayings for you and then a little dotted border thing there. So we're going to be using the You're One of a Kind sentiment and this big flower for this card. We're also going to be using the scallop punch. We're going to be using the Melon Mambo cardstock. I love this color, and I love the names of the new in-color cardstocks. They're so cool. Making a different size card this time. I want it to fit inside of a legal envelope, because sometimes we don't have those card size envelopes on stock, but we always seem to have the legal white envelopes. So I'm going to make a card to fit that. And we also are going to be needing some Versamark, some Whisper White ink. I've got both here, the Stampin' Spot and the regular pack. And I'm going to be using this particular tag punch by Stampin' Up. And a little button, and the only non-Stampin' Up product I'm using is some ribbon by Pebbles Ink. So let's get started. Cut my Melon Mambo cardstock 8 inches by 9 inches, scored at 4.5 in the middle. So it's going to make a nice rectangular card. What I'm going to do is take the large flower stamp from the one-of-a-kind stamp set, and I want to stamp it in a row across the top of the card like so with Versamark. But before I do that, I'm going to measure down and use my T-square ruler 2 inches from the top of the card. I'm going to draw a light pencil line so I can make sure that I get them exactly where they need to be stamped. Always starting in the middle, which for this would be at 4.5. Stamp the first one there and then work your way on either side. Okay, so I think you can see what I've done here. I started in the middle. It was 9 across. So I Versamarked. There's a little tick you can see there where I put a pencil mark at 4.5. So I sort of lined up the stamp with the center of the stamp with that little tick mark, so this was centered. And then I put the wooden edge of the frame of the wood block right on the line and stamped, and then I went out every 2 inches, each a little dot there is 2 inches apart, and like I did that on both sides. And you can see my pencil line, actually it's quite dark, but I'm sure if I take a good art eraser I'll get that off. So I'm going to set this aside before I erase it because Versamark tends to be a bit wet, and I want to make sure it's thoroughly dry so I don't smear it. The next thing we're going to take the Razzleberry designer paper and the scallop punch. You've punched out your scallop, and then you're going to go in every 2 bumps here and cut down almost like a valentine, like you're making a little heart. And you keep doing that all the way around. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your little punched out flower right side down on, this is just some kind of packing foam stuff that I had, and you can take, like I've got a broken paintbrush here, and you're basically going to burnish, kind of rub and burnish each one of these little petals that you've made. Then you turn it over this way, and I'm going to use the bigger end for this and do the same thing in the center, kind of burnish that center up. And you have created a really cool, it almost looks like a prima flower, just with the scallop punch. I've got all the pencil marks erased. So now the next thing I'm going to do along the long edge here, I'm going to take my scallop punch and just make a scalloped edge all along here. We're going to put this aside for a moment. We're going to take our Razzleberry designer paper and cut it 1 inch by 9 inch. A 1 inch by 9 inch strip. Okay, I've got my 1 inch by 9 inch strip of Razzleberry designer paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up our card, and all along the edge here we're going to run the snail adhesive. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to line up our designer paper strip with the bottom edge of the card like so. Then we're going to close down the scalloped top, and it should be adhered perfectly and exactly the right width of the card. Next thing we're going to do is take a corner rounder and corner round the corners of our card. I'm going to go back to our flower now. I'm going to take some Whisper White ink and just ink along the edges and the raised bumps of the burnished flower. Then I'm going to take a glue dot and put a little button in the center of our flower. And then we will place our flower. We can pick any one of these, so let's choose this one and add a glue dot and attach the flower there. We're going to take a piece of the leftover cardstock and some Whisper White ink and the Your One of a Kind sentiment. Ink that up. Then next we're going to take a baby wipe and wipe the ink off the parentheses on the side there, being careful not to wipe it off the words. So just kind of use your fingernail and dig in there on both sides. We'll give our stamp a little huff and we'll stamp the sentiment. We're going to take this tag punch and center our little sentiment in there, and we're going to take the little Stampin' Spot and ink around that. And there we have our simple little card, and it says, "You are one of a kind." So I'm so thankful to my neighbor Laura for offering her help. So I'll see you guys after the wedding, and I all hope you have a great weekend too. Bye bye.